Anyone, anywhere can have a great idea for the future. But when all of our ideas, thoughts and experiences come together to inspire researchers, that's when we create a better future for all. Join Ireland's biggest brainstorm by visiting creatingourfuture.ie and tell us what researchers in Ireland should explore to create a better future.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Susan Keogh, and you're very welcome along to the Research Community Activation event of Creating Our Future, a Government of Ireland campaign to stimulate a national conversation that generates ideas from the public to inform the direction of research in Ireland. We're delighted to be joined today by a host of researchers and the research community from all over Ireland. Some of you have been involved in the campaign since its planning stage, and some of you have just recently engaged, but we're absolutely delighted that you're here today to hear more about and to lend your support to creating our future. So before we kick off with today's agenda, I'd first like to introduce a pre-recorded message from Simon Harris, TD, Minister for Further and Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science, who has brought forward the campaign. It is the first of its kind in Ireland, as most of you probably know, and his department is leading on it. And Minister Harris was unable to attend this afternoon's session, but we did record this message from his participation this morning with stakeholder organisations from the community and the voluntary sector. We did have some technical difficulties with Zoom earlier, even after 18 months of us all trying to grapple with new technology. But Minister Harris is very passionate about this campaign, and earlier I began by asking him to give us his thoughts on it.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here this morning. It's great to be with you at what is a very important day for creating our future. And as Ireland's first ever Minister for Further and Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science, I'm really delighted to encourage everyone to engage with and to support creating our future. This is a really important opportunity, an opportunity for everyone to give their ideas on how we can make our country better for all. And to think about the opportunities and the challenges you face and how they could be addressed by our research community. I think perhaps in the past there was a view that research and science was something that happened over there. It was somebody else's business. But if anything, I think the COVID pandemic has shown us how important research and science is to every aspect of our life. And what we now want to do is we want to harness that focus, that spotlight that's been applied to research and science, and say, well, hang on a second, if research and science was able to show us the way out of the global pandemic, was able to get people getting their lives back on track after that pandemic, what else can research and science help? What are the big challenges and opportunities that we face, and how can we ask our research community to work to resolve those issues? And I think if you look at science, the environment, health, education, poverty, the arts, diversity, inclusion, there's so many areas here, and all ideas are welcome. No matter how big an idea, how small an idea, they can all help inspire researchers to help make a better future for Ireland. And I think we've had a lot of time to think over the last year or so. And I think a lot of us have been thinking, what sort of society do we want to live in? We've clearly, as I said, seen the benefit of expertise. We've done well as a country when we've followed expert advice, when we've worked with research, when we've worked with science. But perhaps the COVID pandemic has somewhat temporarily drowned out other massive challenges that we face in our country, in our community, and in our world. Climate, food security, the future of how we work, even how we grow old and age in our communities. And we need to consider and urgently find collective solutions for this. So we are now carrying out this national conversation. And you're right, I'm so excited about it. I think it is a major opportunity to connect with civic society, to bring the general public and the research community closer together. And the conversation is going to do a couple of things. It's going to talk about what's already happening and showcase all the good stuff that's happening in the Irish research, science and innovation community. And crucially though, it's also going to ask the public, the people who pay for and fund the research, what are the challenges that you think are the most important? It'll give you an opportunity to input your ideas, to see what you'd like future research undertaken on, and to collaborate with Ireland's world-class leading researchers, innovators, and public policymakers. So I suppose my appeal to everyone this morning is to be bold as a nation, think big, capture curiosity, capture ideas. There's no such thing as a stupid idea. Let's get as many ideas going. Let's get the juices flowing in terms of the conversation. And I'd really encourage everyone throughout our country to get involved in what I think is a unique conversation. Take the opportunity as a community group, as a representative group, local level or national level, host an event, host a discussion, have a debate, build this into your schedule of work in your organization for the year, and give us your views on the things you care about. Equally, I'd encourage our research community who rely so much on ideas to drive discovery and innovation, to provide expertise and to provide advice and to help contribute to and inform the discussion and to support us, the public, the lay people, in this national brainstorm. So through Creating Our Future, I invite everyone to harness that understanding. And anyone can have an idea for research. It doesn't need to be a fully developed idea. Mine rarely are. We can come up with any idea, throw it out there. It can be based on an opportunity you faced, a challenge you faced in your own life, in someone you know's life, in your community, in Ireland, or indeed anywhere in the world. It can just be something that you're curious about, something you're saying, I always wonder why this was that way. Ask that question. And everything we receive is going to be inputted into a report. It's a report that's going to go to government, and it's going to go along with expert commentary and recommendations by our expert committees. We'll then consider the report, and I want you to know it will inform our thinking and our development and our policy in this country on research and innovation. And of course, researchers will use the outcome of the report to inform their current or future research. And any additional funding we target into this area will be targeted to the ideas that are generated through this report. So, but I do hope that everybody attending today is going to find out all that they need to support the national conversation, find out how you can get involved. And I know today you're going to be provided with insights and tools so you can meaningfully engage in creating our future. I really look forward to hearing and seeing about the events and the discussions you're holding. I look forward to participating in as many as I possibly can. Please do promote the website, get people to log onto the website and log their ideas, submit their ideas there as well. And I want to assure you that I will continue to be taking a really personal interest in this, working very closely with our advisory forum, with government departments, state agencies, community groups, research funders, and our higher education sector and our researchers. And we're going to give this the time, the focus, and the priority that it deserves and requires to make this a conversation that we can all be proud of, and a legacy arising from the COVID pandemic for research, innovation, and science in Ireland. So thank you so much for having me here this morning. I hope your deliberations are very good.
Yes, and I think we can all agree that the campaign has fantastic potential to really engage the public in research and generate some key insights for Ireland's research policy. And we do want to thank Minister Harris for his valuable time earlier this morning. Now, to bring you up to speed on where we are with the campaign, we officially launched at the end of July, and over the course of August, the public engagement campaign team has been busily putting together the strategy as well as activity and event plans to engage the public between now and the closing date for submissions of ideas, which, as we know, is at the end of November. Now we're into the activation stage of public engagement of Creating Our Future. So over the course of the next 90 minutes or so, various members of the campaign team will outline some background information to the campaign. They'll give us updates on its rollout across the country and provide practical steps for how the research community can take to both support and benefit from the campaign in terms of participating in and running events and activities with our stakeholder organisations and indeed with members of the public. Now, in terms of our agenda for the rest of the session, I will shortly invite Dr. Ruth Freeman, Director of Science for Society at Science Foundation Ireland, to discuss the overall campaign process with us. That will be followed by a conversation with Seamus Carey, the campaign's public engagement consultant, to outline the campaign's planned activities and events. And then we'll have Lisa Keating, who's Director of Research and Innovation at the Irish Universities Association. And we'll be discussing with Lisa the importance of researchers and research organisations like yourselves in making this campaign a success and how you can benefit from it too. And then we'll return to Seamus Carey. We'll run through the practical steps because I know that's really important for you in terms of how you can get involved in the campaign, whether it's running a campaign session, generating ideas from the public, and then we're going to open the floor for a Q&A session as well. And don't forget, at all times throughout this session, you can ask questions of our speakers, so use the Zoom's Q&A function. So just click the Q&A button, type in your question and your name, and I will do my best to ask as many as I can as we get through the session this afternoon. Now, I'm delighted to introduce you to Dr. Ruth Freeman, who's the Director of Science for Society at Science Foundation Ireland. Ruth, you're very welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, Susan. Good to be here.
Yeah, I suppose tell us, Ruth, first, start off by telling us what is involved in making Creating Our Future happen. What's going on behind the scenes?
Well, Susan, this is an idea that we've been thinking about for years, and with the creation of the new department for research, innovation and science, we brought it to Minister Simon Harris, and he loved it, this idea of an inclusive dialogue that would bring everyone together to talk about research. And it was modelled on similar activities that had happened in Flanders and in the Netherlands that we had seen, and we talked to the people who ran them there. So the whole project is overseen by a steering committee. I sit on that committee with another colleague from SFI, Dr. Kieran Shoiga. There's also representatives from the department, the Irish Universities Association, the Irish Research Council, and the Technological and Higher Education Authority. So a lot of the key stakeholders who look after research in Ireland are represented around that table. We also have, very importantly, our advisory forum, and obviously we had an event this morning to talk to a lot of the societal and stakeholder groups and business groups who are interested in getting involved. So we've around 80 organisations there who are feeding in to guide how they feel the campaign should run, but also to activate all of their members and the people that they deal with to get involved and join in the conversation with researchers about research. And that's chaired by Julie Byrne, who's the CEO of Nokia Bell Labs here in Ireland. We also have our Gen Z advisory forum. I mean, a lot of what we do in research is going to play out in the coming decades. So it's really important for us from the beginning to have that voice of younger people, to make sure that it's heard in the campaign and to make sure that the campaign resonates with them. So those are the kind of the formal structures that feed in, but really this is a campaign that's going to be built on partnerships, and I suppose that's what we're doing through these activation events. We're asking people to get involved.
And phenomenal to think we had so many of those community organisations join us in this morning's session, and again a huge amount of researchers and people from the research community joining us this afternoon. So the interest certainly is there. In terms of what you're most excited about or what you would like to see come out of the campaign, what are you thinking on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been involved in research for nearly 20 years now, and I think everything about it really excites me because for me it's the way that we make good decisions about our future, and we inform, you know, I suppose ourselves, and we deal with the challenges that we're facing. And I suppose it's very much been in the headlines for all of us over the last couple of years, over the last 18 months, as we have sort of allowed the public in to see what's going on in research. And I think, you know, we're all so conscious now of the scientists and the researchers who are household names.
It certainly became a lot more accessible, I think, for the general public.
And I think that's a good opportunity for the research community to I suppose, use that open door now to continue the conversation, because I think there's even a terminology around the process of research that people have started to engage with. We've had members of the public ringing into radio shows talking about a paper being published or a preprint, and then saying, well, why did the researchers say that 2 months ago, but now they're saying something different? So that whole iterative process, I think we've started to have that conversation. So I think it's a really good time to continue it, but to broaden it. So it's not just about medical research or science research. It can also be about how do we have good evidence-based policy? You know, what are people interested in and curious about? What are they passionate about? And I think that this campaign is open to all those ideas.
So ideas, we're asking people for ideas, and we're using that word, I guess, a lot. I suppose, what do we mean by an idea? Or, you know, is there such a thing as a bad idea? Or I guess people will be kind of wondering, what exactly are we looking for?
Yeah, I mean, we're asking a pretty broad question as part of the campaign. You know, tell us your idea for what researchers in Ireland should explore to create a better future. It's pretty broad, and I think we're going to get in different types of questions, different types of ideas, and in fact, you know, that's what we're already seeing. So we will get broad areas of interest where people will say, I'm interested in climate change, I'm interested in a particular aspect of health, and that's fine. Those are ideas around what's important to you and where you think research should focus. But I hope we'll also have maybe some more focused ideas on specific things that come from people's own lives. And I mean, it struck me as we were developing the campaign, and in fact it has, as I work a lot with different researchers, and often when you go out and meet researchers, they've been inspired to their career by something that's happened to them in their own life. There's very often a personal connection to the research that they do. But we also know that research isn't necessarily the most diverse place. So if you think about it that way, there's a whole other set of experiences that doesn't necessarily get the same opportunity to be considered. And I think this campaign allows those other voices to come into the room. maybe inspire researchers, because maybe there's challenges there, problems they can actually solve with their expertise. So I think there'll be ideas, I think there'll be questions, I think there'll be topics, and everything is welcome. So no bad ideas.
So how do the public then submit their idea?
So the main way that people will submit their ideas is through the web portal, which is creatingourfuture.ie. There's a very simple form where people just fill in free text their idea. There'll also be other ways to submit ideas, like through free postcards and at events and things. And when Seamus is here in a few moments, he'll be able to talk in a little more detail about those. So it's fairly straightforward. Just get online, submit those ideas.
And then I guess people will be wondering what will happen then after the ideas are submitted.
Yeah, so we are at the moment setting up a whole structure of expert committees that are going to take hopefully these thousands of submissions and bring them all together, compile them into ultimately a final report that will be overseen by our last expert committee. So that report, I think, will serve many functions, and I think the Minister alluded to it there in his remarks earlier. So I certainly think there'll be a book of inspiration for researchers here in Ireland, and maybe even further afield. So I think that's really important. I think there'll be opportunities in there for really new, exciting projects that we didn't even know that were there. As well as that, I think, again, they will shape policy, and I hope they will excite the public and also allow them to see how important research is, because ultimately we need them to get involved to buy into that if there's going to be support for research here.
Yeah, absolutely. I know some of the researchers joining us today might be wondering, what if the public doesn't know much about their particular area of research, and there aren't maybe many submissions, particularly on the topic that excites them?
Yeah. And I'm sure that would be a concern for people. I mean, I think that the most important thing to say is that this is not about taking funding away from any research that's happening now. This is about adding on, hopefully, some new specific streams around, I suppose, challenges or interesting ideas that are unearthed here. I mean, ideally, if we get enough support behind this campaign, we can grow the whole budget for research here in Ireland, and I think that would be a really good outcome. But this isn't about stopping things, it's about starting new things.
Yeah, absolutely. We heard Minister Harris allude to this earlier on, but the idea of how, inclusivity and, reaching everybody in the country as much as we can is really at the core of this campaign. And I know that's something that's really important to you as well.
It is, and it's been that way from the beginning. It's been about, those broader sets of experiences. And I think everyone's right to have a voice, because we, those of us that have been privileged enough to work in research, we know how powerful it can be and how it can go on to change things. And I think it's really important that everyone gets a chance to have their voice heard. So I think for the researchers here, I would really, really encourage people to reach out. I bet there's researchers here who probably even some of their closest friends aren't really sure what they do. And they could certainly even take the opportunity to have those conversations around the table when hopefully we could all sit around tables again with our friends again soon.
We have a couple of questions coming in already, so I might put you a little bit on the spot if that's okay. We do have one question, Ruth, in relation to the diaspora and whether they can engage with Creating Our Future. What is the story with that?
Absolutely, we'd love the diaspora to engage, and as I said, this is a campaign built on partnerships, so we'll certainly be working with the Department of Foreign Affairs. We know there's some embassies and consulates across the globe who are interested in getting involved and kicking off those discussions. And I also think that, Irish people, they will think about, people living in Ireland will think about issues here, but I think we'll have a global view as well. And I would be very surprised if we didn't get in ideas that are, relevant on a global level. And look, research is a global game. Anything that happens and anything that comes out of this, we all work together in research.
And we certainly learned that over the last 18 months, again, just to reference your point. Somebody else is wondering, how do we define research in this initiative? And I suppose another kind of follow on from that, are there any preset categories that suggestions will fall into?
So the answer in terms of the preset categories is no.
Okay.
I mean, at some of the public engagements event, there may be inspirational ideas for how to help people come up with ideas, but absolutely not. We don't have preset ideas about where things will come in. And then in terms of the first part about research, well, I suppose what I would say, it's all of those areas of exploration. So it's not just science, it's research into economics, humanities, it is science as well, but it really can be anything where people are really using that research systematic method to find out new information or to uncover information that way. So it could be, I'm really interested in this historical site in my area. That researchers look into those kind of things just as much as they're working on the next generation of medicine. So it's an incredibly broad space.
You alluded to this earlier in terms of COVID-19 and how it has changed the dynamic in terms of what we, the general members of the public, understand when it comes to research and what we demand of it, I guess.
Yes.
Can we widen the scope of what is understood as relevant research? So not just medicines, not just vaccines, not just public health, because I suppose there is a danger that the general public, that's what we've zoned in on, but obviously to expand that is important.
Absolutely, and I think researchers will see throughout the campaign, we have, as well as the diversity in terms of people responding to the campaign, we really want a diversity of researchers out there talking about their work, because you're right, it has very much been the biomedical, the public health stories that have been on the airwaves over the last 18 months. So I think it's really important to broaden that out, and research is critical in terms of designing good education systems, good government, all of these things. And so there's broader areas that we can talk about. And I think that, I suppose this group here, what we're saying to them is, let's all get out and talk as much as we can and open the door for those conversations to happen.
Absolutely. Okay, final question for you. You have to tell us your idea or submission for creating our future. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but what is it?
It changes all the time.
Okay.
I have so many different ideas.
What's
today's idea? I mean, I think one of the areas that I would like us to see more focus in is in the area of women and children's health. So I think that will be one of my ideas that I'll be submitting, but there'll be loads.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for being with us. Dr. Ruth Freeman, who's the Director of Science for Society at the Science Foundation Ireland, for joining us this afternoon. And what a great overview of the whole campaign, Creating Our Future, and what we hope it will indeed achieve. I am now joined by Seamus Carey. I'd like to welcome him along. Seamus joined the campaign in July as a public engagement consultant. He's been working with the team to develop the campaign's public engagement strategy and activity and engagement plan. Seamus, you're very welcome along. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm not sure if you copied me in pink or
yeah,
I know.
Look,
pink, yeah.
I got the memo. Put it that way. Seamus, let's start in terms of, because as much as we're hearing the word idea being said a lot, we're also hearing the public engagement, these words. And I know this is something that you feel is really, really important. And the fact that if the public engaged with this campaign, that's what we really, really want to happen. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. And we use the term public engagement a lot, as you've said. So I think ultimate success for us in the campaign, we have really two big metrics. The first is generating over 10,000 ideas from the public. It's an ambitious goal, but we think with the support of our stakeholder organisations that we spoke to this morning and the support of all the research community on the call today, that will be possible. But more importantly, it's about running a really inclusive campaign that engages with diverse audiences across the country and really starts conversations between the public and researchers about the importance of research and its impact. And I think everything we're doing has those two objectives in mind. We're generating ideas and targeting those demographics across the country to engage them in research, connect them with researchers, and really build that narrative, I guess, of the importance of research and the impact it can have.
So the strategy then for the campaign to sort of really ensure that it achieves those two objectives. Can you talk us through a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I think when I joined and we were looking at the question and looking at the campaign as a whole, I think one of the challenges was the potential that the campaign could be seen as quite academic, or it might be potential of being inaccessible for lots of the public. And that's, I guess, because, look, I'm a layperson, I'm not involved in the research world. And I guess for me, researchers in my head are these super intelligent people wearing white lab coats and researching in a lab. And I guess that's the idea, is that there is a potential that people see it as being, as you've mentioned earlier, science-focused research, or else it's just something that happens somewhere else and it's not really for the public to engage in. And I think there was the fear that, when people look at the question, they say, God, well, I wouldn't have an idea. What would I know? How would I contribute? And so those are the things that we're really trying to address in our activities, is really find routes into the campaign for people to talk about things that interest them, and connect them with researchers to show what research is, that it happens in every area of our life. It isn't just about scientific research, it's about every type of research. Because we really do believe that every single member of the public has an idea worth submitting, and we want to run our activities and our campaign in a way that elicits those ideas in a really creative and dynamic way, because that's what really good public engagement looks like.
Okay, so let's broaden that out a little bit then, to be creative, to be dynamic in terms of how this campaign engages with the public. What's that going to look like?
Absolutely. Well, I think there's really two elements. There's the strategy and then there's the activities. If we look at the strategy first, I guess there's 5 points, and I have them nicely pre-prepared on a slide here that you can hopefully see. The first is really developing that understanding of research and researchers and starting a conversation between the research community and the public. We want to bridge that perceived gulf between what happens in the research world and how it impacts the public. And we're doing that by involving the researchers on this call in all our activities, all our events, because we want to bring their work to life and facilitate real discussion between the public and the research world. I guess the second one is providing context to the question. I know that Ruth touched on this earlier, and highlighting that an idea can be anything. It can be an opportunity or a challenge in your own life, for your community, for Ireland, or for the world, or it could just be something that you're super curious about or super passionate about. And that little prompt helps people to look at the question and go, okay, I see how I might have something in my life that might be suitable to submit. The third point, I guess, is the thematic areas. And I know that's one of the questions that you got earlier was, have we any kind of categorized ideas of what we will get submitted? And the answer really is no. But I know that when I asked this question of family and friends, when they saw the broad question, they kind of went, oh, I'm not really sure what you're looking for, or
I just don't know
what I can submit. I just don't know what my idea is. And so we found we really had to develop some prompts and some little nudges that could help people to brainstorm and think. And so one of those are the context I've just mentioned around an opportunity or a challenge or something that you're curious or passionate about. The other are thematic areas. And we've developed 8 really broad thematic areas. Example, health and well-being, the environment, community development, and so forth. And these are not meant to be leading, but instead be inspirational and inspire creativity. So people can look at a theme and say, okay, the environment, what's my opportunity or my challenge in my own personal life or in my communities regarding the environment?
Okay.
And it helps to brainstorm ideas. Then we have the roots in, and this is really, really important. So we're constantly trying to find ways to engage members of the public with the campaign and find a route into the campaign. That can be through our stakeholder organisations that we spoke to this morning. It could be through our ambassadors. So we have 6 ambassadors that the Minister will be launching soon. I don't want to steal his thunder and name any names, but they're very exciting people. And some of those will have different interests. So for example, if there's a sporting ambassador, we can start a conversation with the public about sport. We can look at what are the opportunities or challenges there, or what are the issues that people are curious or passionate about. And we can use that as a way to start a conversation on the broader aspects then in people's life that may not be sporting related. And the last point, I guess, is in our strategy is incentivization, gamification. So public engagement works best when it's fun. And so this campaign is fun, and it's designed to be fun. We have a roadshow that we'll be talking about later that's going all around the country. We'll have a spin the wheel attraction added, where you can spin the wheel, land on a category, submit an idea, and win a prize. We're also asking people to pay it forward, that if you've gotten involved in the campaign, you now have a responsibility to have that conversation with your family and friends and with someone else and have a multiplying effect. And we also then have a budget available for some prizes and some vouchers and so forth if either stakeholder organisations or researchers are arranging events and want to incentivise the public to attend. And we'll touch on some of
that a little later. Before I let you go to come back to us later, but tell us about your motivation in getting involved with the campaign in the first place.
Absolutely. So I looked and I saw there was a huge potential for what this campaign could be. I think, like everyone else, I looked at the results of COVID-19 and what we can achieve when we all have a collective goal. We're all working in the same direction, and I thought that's amazing. And I thought this campaign has the potential to really inspire work like that and make sure that the public are aware of research and researchers are aware of the ideas of what the public have. Because it isn't a one-way conversation, it's a dialogue, it's a conversation between both. And I think when I saw the potential for the activities we have planned, which I'll just quickly run through, I thought it has the potential to be really, really amazing and deliver some really great results. So we have our advertising and PR campaign that we have launched. You'll have seen our advertising, our 20-second advertisement at the start of today's event. That's been on television for the last couple of weeks. We have radio advertisements, we have press advertisements, and we have a social and digital campaign, along with a public relations campaign about our events and activities and utilising our ambassadors. We have our roadshow, as I mentioned. It's going to be travelling to 33 locations in 26 counties over a 4-week period. We are working on the agenda at the moment, so there is a draft map there on screen in week 1, week 2, week 3 and week 4. We want to really ensure that there is a mix of rural, urban locations that we're really targeting that wide demographic mix that we've talked about. We want this campaign to be really diverse and inclusive, and we talk a lot about, we want to ensure we have, everything from the fishermen in Killybegs to the farmers in Carlow to the young tech professionals in the cities. Everyone and anyone we want included in this campaign. Then I guess if we go back to the list of other activities we have planned, we have our thematic events, and these are ones we'll be running with our ambassadors. So as I mentioned, if we have an ambassador that is particularly interested in, say, the entertainment industry or is from that industry, we might do a gig or a comedy gig and utilize that as a way to get the public engaged in the campaign. So they can talk about something they're passionate about and then open the floor to the members of their community.
Engaged audience,
and network, yeah, exactly, and get those speaking. We then have our stakeholder events, and so these we spoke with our stakeholders this morning about, and this is where we have such wonderful community and voluntary groups all around the country that have already built engaged audiences of the demographics we want to reach. And so we want to partner with those and run events, run activities, and target their members and the public that are interested in their events. That could be an LGBTI organisation, a youth organisation, an environmental NGO, whatever it is. We had a huge number of those on our call this morning, and we're really excited about working with those and targeting their members and connecting them with researchers. So if there's a researcher that researches LGBTI issues, we want to link them with an LGBTI organisation, and then you can have an event that starts on that topic,
yes,
but then opens it up to much broader. And then finally, our other activities, we have a schools-based programme. We have lots of other things happening that we will continue to keep everyone up to speed on.
And tell me, what is your idea? What idea are you putting in? Am I putting you on the spot now?
My idea, yes. I have much like Ruth, I have a different idea every day. And this morning, when I was thinking about it for today's session, I left my apartment. I'm from Athlone originally, but I live here in the city centre in Dublin. And as I left, I bumped into a neighbour, and it's somebody I'd never met before in the corridor of your apartment complex. And I guess this happens a lot of people in the cities. And I suddenly thought, I want to live in the city for the rest of my life. I love living in cities, but there's something that can be a bit anonymous and a bit isolating about it. And so my research is really that I'd like to see is how do we build really sustainable communities in cities, because we often have transient populations of either young workers or students, and they come and go. And so with the people that are left there or that are there permanently, how do you ensure that they have a community around them? Because that's something I think everyone looks for and everyone seeks is to feel part of something. And I think research into that would be really, really powerful.
Yeah, great idea. Okay, well, thank you, Seamus. Seamus will be back with us a little later in this afternoon's session, and we will have some more detail from Seamus on some of the other things that we want to let you know about today. I want to welcome now Lisa Keating. Lisa is Director of Research and Innovation at the Irish Universities Association. Lisa, thanks for joining us this afternoon to chat about why the Irish research community have a very important role to play in creating our future. Tell us more.
Thanks, Susan, and I'm really delighted to be here today. I think this is a great campaign and very supportive of it. And I think, looking at my role in the Irish Universities Association as Director of Research, in a nutshell, my objective is always to try and improve the research ecosystem in Ireland. So that's what I'm looking to do. And to be able to do that, you really need to garner support for the system.
Yes.
And to be able to do that, you need to demonstrate the value of the system. So I'm really excited about the campaign because it's a real opportunity for the research community to get out there, talk to the public and explain why their research is so important and how it's touching their everyday lives of the citizens of Ireland. So it's really great.
True, while we probably feel a little bit more connected to research these days, we still, I'm sure, our eyes could be opened so much further in terms of what research does and how it impacts our daily lives. So I think that is a really good point. And as Seamus outlined, Lisa, the public engagement strategies and the activities, he referenced how important the research community is in all of that. And I know you really feel that it's fundamental that researchers and people from the research community really, buy in to this campaign and get involved as much as they can.
Yeah, that's so important. I mean, the researchers are key here. There'll be no campaign without the researchers. I suppose it's impossible. It's not possible to imagine what the possibilities are if you don't know what's already been made possible by research.
Yes.
And I think the researchers need to be able to show what's already been done because that's really, really important, and to spark the curiosity of the public, of different community groups and different initiatives that have taken place, and to really be able to start that conversation, because we're talking about a national conversation, but who's going to start it? And it has to be those that are at least, comfortable with research and understand it, and bringing it out to the community and helping them to start that dialogue. I think that's really, really important. So there will be no campaign without the research community, but it's a really exciting opportunity for them.
It is, absolutely. I suppose to play devil's advocate for some of the researchers and people from the community on the call, what is in it for them to get involved, in your view?
Yeah, and I think that's the key question. And for me, I look at COVID, as so many of speakers earlier today have talked about. That's really brought research into the spotlight. I think Minister Harris referred to it as that. But the challenge that we face is that an awful lot of the research community that really helped support the country through the pandemic, a lot of the different disciplines, for many years they've gone unfunded or very little funding available out there in the system. And to a certain extent, that's to do with the fact that people don't see it, how essential it is. So it's really important for the research community to go out and show that it is essential, that it does make a difference to everyday lives, that it's not just something that somebody in a white coat or in a university or IoT is doing in isolation, that it's about networks and coming together and making a difference to people's lives. And I think if you can get the researchers connecting with the public, not only do they have an opportunity to show how great the research is that they've done so far, the difference it's made, but it'll spark new ideas and look at different ways that we can improve society and benefit society overall.
Yeah, I mean, increased recognition can only lead to, I guess, good things. So what then, in your view, is the particular ask of researchers on the call who've joined us today?
And I think that's difficult because it is an ask, and it's a big ask. I mean, you have to appreciate that for researchers, there's an awful lot competing for their time. They're supervising students, they're writing proposals, they're also giving lectures in an unprecedented time where they're trying to record and everything. So there's so much happening. So why are you going to make time in your busy schedule for something that you can't see the immediate benefit? What I think is there's such a great opportunity to show the value of research, but no one person can do that. We have to do it collectively. And to do it collectively, it means everybody playing their part in that. So if every researcher just met one or two people, I mean, most of the country would understand the value of research. So it's looking at the simple ways that you can do that. And I think Seamus, if I'm right, is going to go through that in a bit more detail. But I think it's really, can I be involved in an event if possible? Or more so, is there a community out there that could really benefit from my research, and I might learn something from them as well? So can I reach out? Who can I reach out to? And play my part in trying to raise awareness for the importance of research, and hopefully I get something back from it as well. So.
Good. Tell me, what is your hope then, I guess, for the campaign? Because it is very broad and lots of really good things could come from it and will come from it. But what is your hope for
and
it?
That's the thing, I suppose part of me, as a professional, is trying to think of metrics and ways to measure it and what would it look like, what would success look like. But it was funny, I got a taxi here today, and I haven't been in one of those for a long time. And the taxi driver was explaining to me about his son, who is the world champion for mental arithmetic. Oh. So I was very impressed. And he said to me, he's amazing, he said, because he's so curious, he said, and curiosity is the greatest attribute we have. He said he can do anything and he can be anything. And I thought, wow, I'd love it if every time I hop in a taxi or I go into a coffee shop or I go somewhere, people are talking about research or science or the arts, humanities, and really seeing how it connects to their lives and how curiosity is the important thing. And we really need to engage the public to appreciate that more, I think.
What is your idea, I have to ask you, for your submission? What idea? You probably have a lot like our other speakers, but give me one.
Well, what I found is quite often people are asking me now questions thinking that somehow I have some knowledge that I can answer infectious disease questions or something along those lines. So I have no answers, but I do have questions. And I think the research community in Ireland really came to the fore during the pandemic. And we responded so well on the national stage, but also globally. But what I'd really want to, I think a really good question would be, well, what do we need to do to be prepared the next time? What do we need to put in place? How do we increase our agility? How do we respond to the next crisis? It might be another infectious disease. We know there's difficulties with climate change. So what would we need to have in place to make sure that the research community can respond as well as it has done in the past, and even better?
So a little bit of future proofing.
A little bit of future proofing in there.
Okay, well, Lisa, thanks so much for that. I know you're going to join us shortly for the Q&A as well with Seamus, but that was Lisa, Director of Research and Innovation at the Irish Universities Association. We want to thank her so much for giving us her insights today, and I'm delighted to be welcomed back. Seamus Carey is here with us, and as Lisa mentioned there, you are going to talk us through, Seamus, in a little bit more detail about the practical steps involved in supporting the campaign, because I guess the researchers and the people from the research community that have joined us today, they probably really want to know, okay, right, let's go. What can we do?
Absolutely. And so we've given a lot of context, we've given a lot of information about the campaign, but now we're down to the nuts and bolts.
brass tacks.
What do you want me to do? How can I help? And what's the process? So I guess if we can pop the next slide up on screen, I guess the first thing to say is really we want researchers, first of all, to be involved as members of the public. So you have ideas, you have opportunities and challenges you've noticed in the world, either from your personal life or your working life, or just things that you are curious or passionate about. So we want to hear those ideas, and we want you to submit them on our web platform, creatingourfuture.ie. That's, I guess, the first ask. And we will have some time at the end of this event where we would ask you to do that. And that's a good way for you to showcase the things that you're interested in and the priorities you think we should be looking at. I guess second task then is we want you to sign up as a researcher for the campaign. And at the end of this event, we'll be able to provide a recording of what happened today, along with the slide deck and what we're calling information packs and toolkits. And so those will be sent out to everyone on this call on Monday, and they will provide the step-by-step things that you can do to get involved. And I want to run through some of those today. So I think the first task is really register as somebody that wants to get involved in the campaign. And there'll be a link in that info pack to a very simple form where you can submit your name, your email address, your telephone number, the area of research that you work in, and what part of the country you are based in. And we can then use that to find opportunities for how you can engage in the campaign, and we can contact you as our roadshow gets finalised, as stakeholders events get organised, and find ways for you to really engage. And we'll also invite you to a weekly drop-in call that we do every Thursday. It'll be starting next week. And the idea is it's a chance for researchers to be updated on what's happening in the campaign, what messages are going out, what events and activities are happening, and what the ask of them in that particular week is. You don't have to join it every week, you don't have to join the full call, but you can drop in and out, and if you have questions or things that you're finding difficult or that you want support on, we can do that. And then I guess there's 6 asks. I normally always think in 3 or 5. I think it's a better way to present information, but there was 6 this time, and so we had to do 6. And I guess the first is be available to speak and participate at events. That's our stakeholder events. So if, for example, we have a youth organisation that's running a brainstorm for their members, we'd love to be able to provide a youth researcher for that event who's able to bring to life their work, as we've mentioned, showcase the importance of it and the value it has, and start a conversation with those members about their ideas and give the context of what work has already been done in those areas and what work might still be needed. And I think being able to be available for those is the first thing. And so once you sign up using that registration form, as our stakeholder events get organised, we'll find opportunities and we'll link them to researchers with the skills that are there. Yeah, so that's the first ask, I guess. This second ask, if we pop the next slide on screen, is to participate in our roadshow. So as we mentioned, we have a roadshow that's going all around the country. If I remember, 33 locations, 26 counties in 4 weeks. So the bus driver's going to be tired, I'm going to be tired, we're all going to be tired, but it's going to be a really engaging exercise in chatting to the public. And we'd love to have researchers involved in those. So our plan is we'd pop a researcher down, or a number of them. We'll have some benches outside our coffee truck, and you can sit and have a socially distanced conversation with a member of the public, listen to their ideas, talk about what you work on, and showcase that conversation and really bring the power of research to life. Because as we said, for a layperson, they either have a view of a researcher as somebody working in science in a lab, or they have no knowledge of it at all.
Yes.
And we want to showcase that actually research happens in every area of our lives and impacts every area of it. And we want to showcase that and start those conversations, because as you've mentioned, everything we can do to generate awareness of the value and impact of research is really positive for the research community in the end. So pop into our roadshow, be available to speak to the public, and that's a second
ask.
great thing you can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then our third is organising events. And I know I can automatically hear
you can hear the gasp.
I can hear people go, oh, or the eye rolling or the gasps. But I think this is a really important one, because you can embed creating our future into events and talks and discussions that you're already having. So either you're a researcher that's doing a talk or an event in the next couple of weeks that you can tag a brainstorm onto, or you're part of a research community or organisation that's doing events, and you can...
So it doesn't have to be a big event. Well. It can be as small.
It can be as small as you want. So what we're suggesting here, there's 3 types. There's doing something with staff and colleagues in the organisation that you are part of, and that could be other researchers, or it could be if you're a researcher in a different organisation with the staff and colleagues there. You can tag a brainstorm onto a regular weekly meeting. If you're having an away day, you can tag it on there, or you can run a dedicated session. Members of your network or that you engage with as part of your work, or the public, again, we've 2 categories there, you can do the same. So as I said, if you have an event already planned, you can tag a brainstorm onto it, and the brainstorm can start on the topic that you're most passionate about and then open up and talk about other topics. Or you can run a dedicated session. So somebody on this call might decide, actually, I think this is the greatest campaign since sliced bread. and I'm going to run a session for it, and I want to do a dedicated event, and I'm going to arrange that. And so we'll provide all the support for that, and that's on our next slide. So if you can arrange events, fantastic. Embed it in your existing events or run a dedicated session.
Okay.
And if you can't do that,
talk to your friends and family even.
Talk to your friends and family and just spread
the word as much as you can.
Campaign. Yeah. So if you are going to do
the event,
a brainstorming event, and we'll talk about what we mean by brainstorming shortly, but if you're going to do an event, then what we'd suggest is that you first visit our website, and there will be an event submission form there where you can put down all the details of the event, and we can promote it for you. It's a good way to raise the profile of both yourself as a researcher and of the event that you're organising. And we can provide a campaign spokesperson, if you like, so a campaign rep. So when you're planning that event and you're submitting it, there'll be some questions you can answer around, do you need a rep to give context at the start of your event? We can happily do that if it's a large enough event that warrants it. We also have, as I've mentioned, and everyone loves when I say this word, our incentivization budget. It's not unlimited, but there is a budget there. And that's to be used to give prizes and vouchers to members of the public to attract them to events.
To your event, okay.
Or if you want to provide tea and coffee at it, or transport people to it if it's an in-person event. But again, you can ask that on our form on our website, which will be live at the end of September. In the meantime, you can email us at events@sfi.ie, and we'll get back to you with all of those details. But again, all of this information is in the info packs that you'll get on Monday. And then finally, we do have postcards, which are free post, which you can use at events and give out to members of the public, and they can write them down and send them back if people are not digitally.
And then back to the point that we were making, like promoting the campaign, that's number 5 on the list, and I guess that's kind of the crux of the whole thing. It's just, you know, if another researcher is doing something that you can even get involved in promoting, even if it's on social media or wherever it is, talk to friends and family. Like, it's all about spreading the word.
Exactly. So you'll see on the department's social channels lots of content about this. We have our television advertisement that you've seen. We've lots of content, and as we are rolling it out through our events and our roadshow, there'll be more and more content. So share that, but it's also an opportunity to use that to speak about your work.
Your work.
And the importance of what you do as a researcher. So yes, I would like to think there's a little bit of supporting each other here. You're helping the campaign, but you can use it as a platform to talk about your own work and raise the profile of that as well. And so I'd encourage you to invite people to get down to the roadshow, to come to our thematic events, or if you see other events listed on our website that you think are interesting.
To someone else, let someone else know. Okay.
Exactly. And then finally, this engage family and friends. It is number 6. Yes, it is the last one. You'll be glad to know it's the last ask. I guess it's the concept of paying it forward. So we kind of feel like everyone who gets involved in the campaign, if you can spread the messages and get ideas submitted from even 5 other people, that has a huge network and multiplying effect. And if those 5 people each tell 5 people and get more ideas submitted, we're going to very quickly reach our 10,000 target and ensure that we are being really, really inclusive and reaching all those groups across the country that we want to involve in the campaign. We don't want this to be the type of campaign that gets the usual audience submitting ideas. We really want this to be inclusive, and all of our activities are designed with that. So our roadshow, our stakeholder organisation activities, and now working with all of you researchers that work in completely different areas all around the country. We want to get you involved and really ensure that we are reaching out to the public.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about brainstorming? Because it's something that we mentioned in terms of the different ways that a researcher or someone from the community might do that.
Yeah, so when we talked about this and looked at how are we going to run these kind of brainstorming sessions, I guess the first point is you want this to be as straightforward and simple as possible. And so we had developed loads of different guides with loads of different techniques, and then we went, actually, this is too complex, it's too difficult, we need to have this simple that the public can quickly get involved and it's easy and fun to do. And so we've developed 2 approaches. One is a 15-minute brainstorm, and this is something that you can tag on to your staff meeting, a webinar, or an event, as we mentioned. or the other is a 45-minute brainstorm, which is suitable for a dedicated event. that you might
Standalone,
be doing.
yeah.
Exactly. And so we won't have time. Again, you'll have packs of these in your information that's going out on Monday. There are slide decks for both of those brainstorming categories, and it goes through exactly what you need to do, but it also provides all of the information and the slides that you might need to show at an event. So it's super useful. And I guess what we'll do now is quickly run through the full brainstorm and what that looks like. And the first step is really introducing the campaign. So we did it today in probably about 20 minutes, but it is possible to do it in 2 or 3 minutes. And there's some very clear slides on that in the pack that you can use. Then again, this guide has been utilized for everyone organizing an event. So our second step that we're telling everyone is we want you to include the research community in your event. So tell us when you're registering your event if you'd like a researcher to attend and start a conversation with your members. And again, if you're a researcher arranging this event, you'll already be here. So you don't have to worry about step number 2. But it's great to start that conversation about your work and showcase the impact that it has and can have, and how you are inspired by the ideas of the public. Then we can introduce the brainstorm. And so there's certain elements here around saying you want a brainstorm to be inclusive. You want people to feel like they can contribute any idea, that they're not going to be laughed at or they're not going to have their ideas criticized. And there's some general rules you can set at the start, and those are outlined in our pack. And then we go through 3 brainstorming techniques, each taking 5 to 7 minutes each. The first is just showcasing the question on screen. And that question, if you haven't seen it already, is tell us your idea for what researchers in Ireland should explore to create a better future. So it's a very broad, very free, very open question. And it's surprising that either some people find it difficult and go, oh, I don't know exactly what I should submit. And some people love it because it's so open, they know they can put whatever they want down. And so we'd suggest you start with that and ask people, what are the first things that come to your mind when you see this question? And you can then ask them at the end to share it with the group, and you can discuss some of them. Then our second one is tell us your idea again. It's the question, but we add on a little bit of those prompts. And those prompts are, your idea could be based on an opportunity or challenge that you see for yourself, your community, Ireland, or the world. Or it could be a topic that you are curious or passionate about and would like researchers to explore. That elicits some different ideas.
Yeah, and it also tells somebody, I guess, that they didn't have to have the solution in the initial. So once you see, oh, okay, so it's a challenge, it's an opportunity. I don't have to have the answer. I just have the idea. You go find the answer. So I think that probably brings people a little further along the road then.
Absolutely. So we had a very small family birthday party over the summer for my brother's 50th. And I did this with my brother and sister and my parents. And the first question they found a bit difficult. They went, oh, and we kind of got, climate change and mental health as an answer. And then it got much more nuanced as we went into those other ideas. So it began about, saving the bees. My nephew was super excited about that. And then my parents wanted to know about prevalence and rates of autism in Ireland. So very different ideas, but all inspired by those kind of prompts. And so we did encourage you to use that second brainstorm and share some of those ideas. Again, I would always ask in a brainstorm to get everyone involved. So if someone hasn't shared an idea first, kind of
try
get them
in the second one.
Round.
Okay.
Yeah. Then our third round is about those thematic areas that we mentioned earlier. And these are here not to guide or to lead ideas, but purely to act as inspiration. So we've developed these in a way that they are so broad and so all-encompassing that every single idea that we could think of, or every part of our life we could think of, fitted into some kind of a category. So we have health and well-being, we have the environment, we have arts, culture, history and sport, we have community planning and development, we have people and social development, we have science and technology, we've business, employment, and the economy, and we have other ideas because we want everyone to feel like, look, if your idea doesn't fit any of those categories, it's okay.
There's
you can
still
have, you
room
can have
for
something
it,
else.
yes.
And so what we ask people to do is, pick a category there, pick a thematic area and see, is there an opportunity or a challenge in your life in that area? Or is there something that you're really curious or passionate about? And I know, again, when I did this with family, having those as guides really helped them to kind of think about their lives and look and go, actually, transport, housing, loads of different topics emerge that wouldn't have emerged without those extra thematic areas. So we suggest you give 5 or 7 minutes again to this brainstorm and then share those ideas again in the group and have a little discussion about them. So that's brainstorm 3. As we move on then, it's about then idea submission. So I made a boo-boo there, and I should have said at the very start, you should be asking your participants to be recording their ideas throughout the process, either on, if they're using computers with those, or just the old-fashioned pen and paper, and then you go to your submission point. So at that point, I would ask everyone to log on with their mobile phone or their laptop if they have one with them, go to the website and submit their ideas. At the moment, you have to do one idea at a time, but the website is being worked on at the moment, and by the end of next week or early the following week, you'll be able to submit a number of ideas in one go. And so at this point in the process, everyone should have about 5 ideas after 45 minutes of discussion. And then we move into the wrap-up. I would just thank everyone for getting involved, get their feedback on the campaign, and again, ask them to do that process with at least 5 members of their family and friends. And when I said this earlier, people were, why 5? And I just think 5 is a nice number, and it means you have a target.
And you pay it forward.
You can reach, exactly, and you pay it forward. So that's our idea.
And I guess then, the maybe people joining us today who haven't organised a brainstorm. Now, as we say, this will all be in the pack on Monday, but I guess just a couple of tips or a couple of pointers that you would have for people. I know you've taken us through the steps there, but things to try, the do's and don'ts, I guess.
Absolutely. So I think brainstorms are really interesting, and they can elicit loads of great ideas, but they sometimes have to be carefully managed. So I guess part of it is, the first rule is creating a safe space where everyone feels included and involved, and that's about extroverts and introverts. So I'm an extrovert. I don't know if you can tell from the hand waving all the time or the frantic speaking, but we tend to think and speak at the same time. And so when we get a question, we'll start to answer it and we'll formulate our idea as we talk. An introvert needs a little bit of time to sit back and think about the idea and go, okay, I'm not going to say anything until I'm clear on what I want to say. And so you want to have space for both of those to exist. And that's where we have the idea of sharing your ideas at some point, but also giving people a couple of minutes of silence just to think about their ideas themselves. So you want that kind of environment to be set. I guess second is stressing the importance of every single idea. So I think sometimes as Irish people, and I know I do this a lot, is, I don't know if my idea is really that great, or if it's worth sharing, or if it's worth talking about, because sure, what would I know, kind of thing. And I guess we want to encourage people that every idea that they have, big or small, is important.
Okay.
And you have a kind of duty or responsibility. Exactly.
To kind of draw it out of them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Then we're clear on the third point is don't allow criticism of ideas. So in any great brainstorm, you just want ideas to be generated. And yes, you can talk about them, and a researcher may say, that's really interesting, actually. There was some research that happened last year on a similar topic and so forth, and you can discuss it. But these ideas are based on people's lived experience, and so it's really important that there's no criticism of that, because every idea is valuable.
Okay.
There's 3 more that we'll quickly run through. There, it was the idea of saying you don't want anyone dominating or speaking too much in a brainstorm. And so we have that idea of saying if somebody has given their idea in the first round of the brainstorm, then you might ask somebody else in the second, or someone else in the third. as we've said, we can focus our ideas on a topic or a theme of that event. So if you're a researcher that's really interested in climate change and you've run an event on climate change, you can of course target some of the ideas and start the conversation around climate change and come up with ideas. But we also want you to broaden a bit further and ensure that you allow people the space to give other ideas that may not be climate change related. And then the most important thing, as you'll see from our set, from our event today, from our lovely pictures on the back, and our logo and our branding and all the activities that we've planned, we really want this to be fun and engaging. This has to be a campaign that engages the public in research. We think this is the right route to do it, but we need the support of those stakeholder organisations this morning and our researchers on this call this afternoon to really make it a success. I think together this campaign can be so powerful, result in fantastic ideas, but also raise the profile and generate awareness of the real value and impact of research in Ireland. And so those packs we've mentioned,
they're out on Monday.
They're out on Monday, and you'll see here just some of the ideas of what's in them. You'll have access to the campaign logos, the campaign font, an info sheet that you can share quickly with people if you need to, a PowerPoint template, and then those full slide decks, as I mentioned, on the quick brainstorm and the full brainstorm. Really looking forward to working with all the researchers on this call. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Brilliant. And anything you'd like to add before we move to Q&A?
I think I've spoken for too long already.
No, not at all.
I think that's everything.
Okay, well, we will, you stay where you are. We want to thank Seamus for taking us through those very practical steps on how those on the call today can host the sessions. We have had some questions come in throughout the session, and I'd like to invite Lisa back to join us on the couch, and she might give us a hand in answering some of your questions. Now, Lisa, welcome back. Thank you for giving us a hand with this. I might start with you, Lisa. One in here, can the panel talk about connecting this innovative and exciting brainstorm with professionals on the front line? So, for example, teachers, nurses, social care workers, etc. This is a fantastic campaign, and the public will presumably want to see this make a difference in the public services that they engage with. How can we all help to make this happen?
Wow, that's a really great question, Susan. And I think that is one of the areas that this opens up opportunity for. I mean, I think in the past, research has really shown its value to enterprise and industry and different companies and businesses, but where it could really make a difference is in terms of public service. So to be able to engage with those who are working in public service, to be able to affect, public policy as well. So I think it's really important for researchers that are out there to consider ways that they can connect to those communities, whether it is, as you said, frontline workers or teachers, to really try to connect with those that might be most relevant to their area of research and to start that conversation going. But I do think that there's probably specific initiatives as well that the campaign is looking at in terms of engaging with teachers, say, and trying to bring young people and children on board as well, if Seamus would like to.
Yeah, do you want to add a bit on that?
So we do have a schools-based program that's being rolled out this month as the schools come back. That's for both primary and post-primary, and it's a way to get the teachers working on these ideas and topics with their students. But beyond that, we are working again with stakeholder groups, and so there will be representative bodies of all of those public sector roles that you've mentioned that we want to engage and make sure that they're doing either internal brainstorms with staff and colleagues, or they're running membership events with their bodies.
Someone else on the call, Seamus, wants to know how can they join the campaign as an active member as soon as possible?
Absolutely. So we have those info packs going out on Monday. There'll be a registration form linked in them, which is how to register as a researcher and get involved. If you're super excited and don't want to wait until then, you can email us at events@sfi.ie, and we will follow up with you and make sure that we've captured you now, because
absolutely
we don't want you disappearing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This is the moment. And Seamus, someone else then just wondering, how does a researcher get involved in the roadshows specifically? So once we have the dates, the places, everything confirmed?
Absolutely. So once you have signed up with that form, we'll know your locality, because that's one of the forums in the field. And as we finalise those dates, we'll be reaching out to people in those localities to say, here's when it's happening, are you available? Or you might want to travel for that. If so, fantastic. And we'll be updating people every Thursday on those catch-up calls, and there'll be an email going out every Friday with updates on the campaign and the asks that week. So if there's a new event organised and we're looking for somebody, we'll reach out first of all based on the data that you submitted. If we're not able to find people through that, we'll then do a mass mail out to everyone looking for support.
Lisa, you might take this one for us. If there's a great proposal that is put forward for research, how is it decided and who gets to work on it? Will it be given to a PI who works in that area, or will researchers be encouraged to apply for funding on it?
Again, another great question, and I suppose to a certain extent that's a little bit putting the cart before the horse, because I mean what we're looking for is the ideas to get areas. So I don't see it, and colleagues can come in there, but I don't see it as just there'll be a list of 10 or 20 questions and these are the ones we're going to seek answers for. I think first of all, in the first instance, it's really to get the temperature in the room. What are the areas that are of interest? And if there is investment going forward, then how do we run programs around that to really start to address those questions? But I don't think it'll be a simple kind of linear process where you have one question and one researcher identified. The other thing that's important to remember is, I mean, excellence in research is based on competition. So it's very, very important. So we don't in Ireland tend to commission research. It's very important that there is open competition so that the best proposal wins. So even if it is a very specific question, I can't imagine a scenario where there would be somebody, earmarked for it as such. So I assume that that's the answer to the question.
I would assume as well. I don't know myself, but that would make sense.
Lisa, one on here that you might take as well. Is there an ambition with this campaign to align emerging recommendations with UN Sustainable Development Goals? Do we know that?
And again, I would be shocked if what comes back from the communities and from the general public doesn't align. I mean, the UN Sustainability Goals look at all of the challenges that society is now facing. So I imagine that most of them could fit under each of those. I think what will be really important in terms of this initiative in Ireland is seeing what flavour each of those are in relation to Ireland. I think that will be the difference that we'll see. How does it relate to Irish people and the lives we're living here, and how can it help us address those issues that, yes, the rest of the world is also facing, but we have very particular needs in relation to those. So I think there will be alignment. I don't think there's a deliberate alignment to take place, but I think that will happen naturally.
You think that will happen? Seamus, just on a point of business, will we be able to get the recording of this session to get the collaborators on board to help develop projects, etc.?
I love this. I'm getting all the easy questions. Poor Lisa's getting all the hard ones. Yeah, the answer is absolutely yes. So we will be editing the version of the video this afternoon and tomorrow, putting together and finalising all that information for you, and it will go out on Monday in an email. So if you registered for this event, even if you didn't attend, you will get the email on Monday with all of the information. And
somebody else wondering, Seamus, I can't see on your website, but how can we host a session? Yeah, so you can plan that how you want. At the moment, as we've said, the website's being updated, so there isn't a submission form for an event, but you can send us an email at events@sfi.ie, and we will then list your event on our website and make sure that you are availing of the brand, the platform, and that we can promote it for you as well. This is an interesting one. The idea for the campaign is to submit ideas, but so far no one has mentioned an idea. They have all good posed questions for researchers. This is a little confusing. I take it the idea can be a question. It would be great to get clarity on this. It can be a question. Absolutely. So again, what we want to make sure here is that there's freedom in those submissions. And so we debated that word idea an awful lot, and it felt like it was the best way to represent what we wanted. So some people, if you're a researcher, you may submit an actual research idea as your idea, and that's fantastic. For members of the public, it's an idea about what's the challenge or the opportunity that you want to be explored. And so the word idea is open to interpretation, but we're conscious. For some, it's going to mean something very specific, that's an idea. For others, it's going to be a notion or a problem or an opportunity or something they want explored. And all of those are welcome, because we're conscious the public haven't got, and I don't have that knowledge of exactly what a research idea looks like
and we wouldn't expect them to have. So we want it to be as inclusive as possible. And so you can submit a question, you can submit an idea, you can submit a topic, you can submit just a random thought you've had. They're all valid.
And if I could just say, I'm so glad that Seamus answered that question. So thank you.
Well, I'll come to you, Lisa, on a question that I'm sure didn't come into us only once. But Lisa, how will the ideas be progressed? Will there be funding calls or a different mechanism? So I guess people, are concerned with what happens after this.
And I think, and again, this might be something that Seamus and I should share in response to that, because my understanding of it is to generate different ideas into different areas and to understand what the public sees the value, where the public sees the value of research could be. Are there areas that we're not exploring? Are there underrepresented groups that aren't benefiting as much as they could? So I think that's really important, but I think that's a little bit early to look at it specifically in terms of a call. I think the opportunity here for researchers is really to make the case that there is the appetite out there in the public to have research address, as Seamus has said, the opportunities and the challenges that they face. So I think that's, but perhaps...
Would you add to that, Seamus?
Absolutely, and I think you have to look at it in two ways. So the campaign in itself and the process we're going through is useful. It raises the awareness of research, it raises awareness of the value and impact of it. And so that's the first part. The second part about what happens next, I know the Minister mentioned, and Ruth alluded to it as well, there's really three things that happen. The first are researchers can use that report to inspire their work and inspire their answers to regular calls. It will inform the government's strategy and policy on research and innovation. And then there may be additional funding made available for challenge-based calls on some of the ideas and activities that are submitted. But that's still being worked through.
Will all of the ideas be published on the website?
Yes, so the report will list every single idea anonymised, and you'll be able to go through and see exactly where the idea ended up in the report and what section it went into. We're super clear here on being as transparent as possible with the information, but it will all be anonymised. So you won't have your name beside an idea, or it won't be able to be linked back to you.
One other one here, Seamus, that might come to. I'm interested in Ireland in a wider world, wider world in terms of development and social justice. Does this research have to be in a national context only?
No. Absolutely not. So we're very conscious, as we've said in the question, it's gone through lots of different iterations with the advisory forum, ensuring that it captures every potential aspect. And so that's why we have four elements that are an opportunity or challenge for you personally, for your community, for Ireland, or for the world. And so that leaves it up to all of these great things, because there might be an opportunity that we want Ireland to lead on internationally, and that could be something that is an idea.
Okay, another one in here, Lisa. We might finish up on this one. I'm not sure how we are for time. Do you want the researchers to submit ideas, or should we stand back and leave it up to the public, as researchers are already invested and pursuing in their own research interests? That's a really good question.
That's a great question. Thanks, Seamus. I'll
answer as well. So it's interesting to see if we disagree.
I do think it's important for researchers, because sometimes they look at things outside their field, sometimes in particular in terms of interdisciplinarity, which is as challenging as wide
You've
world.
You've caught my disease.
Yes. But I think in terms of that, it's very important also to see what other disciplines are looking at, what everybody else is thinking about, and to come at it from a different perspective. So I personally, I don't know what the campaign's position on it will be, but I think personally it is important to put it in, but I don't know if there's a way that that's identified, because I think those types of questions might be shaped quite different than the general public coming in, but I'm not sure.
So my answer to it is members of the research community are still members of the public. And so your idea, whether it's been shaped by your background or your work in research, is still equally as valid as somebody who doesn't work in the area. And I think it would be a shame to say we're only talking to people that don't know about research. It's great to also be including people that work in the area, because their ideas are just as valid and just as important to hear.
And one comment in here, not a question, we might end on this, a positive one. Thank you.
Okay, before you good, okay.
Thank you for this session. GMIT and our CUA partners in Sligo IT and LYIT will be absolutely delighted to participate in this exciting inclusive programme. So we hope that there's lots of people feeling the same way. I want to thank you both for being with us and taking us through that Q&A. That is all we have time for today. So before we leave, we'd love to encourage you to take 5 minutes to submit your idea on creatingourfuture.ie. We would love to hear your ideas. It's really, really simple. Just click the submit your idea button and fill in the very short form. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. I hope you all feel as inspired as I am to get out, to spread the word about the campaign, to organise events with your members and networks, and to brainstorm with your family and with your friends. Your involvement really will make this campaign a success. As we said, we'll be in touch on Monday with your info packs and a recording indeed of this event for people who missed out. But until then, thank you again and enjoy the rest of your week.